Hello and welcome to part 2 of our melancholy reflection cue that we are creating. From part 1 we've got this bit. If you like this sort of thing, remember there's loads more of these composing videos on a playlist somewhere over there, and like and subscribe is always appreciated. The first thing I'm going to do is structure this to about 1 minute 30 to 2 minutes, which means I'm going to take this first section, which does sound like a natural end, move it out to about that space and copy it, and then try and work out what is going to be our introduction, which is going to involve taking away some of the different layers. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll come back when I've got some sort of introduction. Right, so what you'll see is I've done a lot of copy and pasting basically. Every time I've moved along, we've added something else. So we start off with 4 instruments, then we add in the bass, and we introduce the flute and the bassoon. Now originally these were playing the melody along with the piano, but I've actually rewritten these parts so that they are doing an introduction, a nice slow build, then they join the newly written piano part, which is this bit up here. As you can see, that was the original, and we've used the same pattern, but this time moving with the bass note, so going down from the C to the B flat to the A to the A flat. A useful thing in something like the scoring mode is if something is quite a bit off the beat, like here, you'll see it will put in a full rest. So if I swap to the piano roll and zoom in a little bit, I'll probably find that note is quite a way off. Now you don't need to quantize everything, but if you get it closer and check in the score, it shows up as normal. So that's one way to check for any slight discrepancies that might sound a bit odd. So you notice this goes down, and the flute and bassoon are following that. At the same time, we've introduced the trumpets and the horns exactly as we had them in the first part. So it's only the flute and the bassoon that I've written those first few extra notes for, and we've slightly changed the piano but stuck with the same rhythm. Right, there's going to be some sort of breakdown section next before we end up getting back into the full ending, so we'll see what that sounds like in a minute. Well, I've been listening back to these transitions between this section where the flute and the bassoon come in, and also the trumpets and horns when they join. If you listen to this, the trumpets and horns do actually come in quite abruptly. It's not too bad, but it's a bit heavier than I'd like. So I've got 2 options here. I could go back into the automation and play around with the expression and modulation to change how loudly they come in, but actually the easiest way to do this is going to be to automate the volume of the main track. So we'll make sure we're not in region mode, we're just in track mode, and all I'm going to do is go through and drop the volume slightly as we come into these tracks, and something like that. Maybe a bit longer, and I'll do the same as the flute and bassoon come in earlier as well. So see when I've done that. Okay, that's done. I thought it was worth pausing here just to show you what I've ended up with. So I do start quite low with the flute at -14, slowly building to -3, and then by then we've got the brass coming in, so we can do an ever so slight build up to 0, which was sounding good in the mix so far. And if I just play this for you, you'll see how the different instruments, the flute, bassoon, trumpets and horns, now come in. You don't need to be quite so harsh with the lower instruments. Remember, the higher the frequency of the instrument, the more it will stand out anyway, which is why the flute has been lowered more than the bassoon. So let's just take a listen to it and you'll probably see what I mean. hear the bassoon, and the flute is now really adding to it. Again, the horns can come up quicker than the trumpets because they're a higher register. And there we've got back to the mix level that I had originally. Okay, what's going to be in the middle? Right, what I've done now is actually added the session keyboard player from Logic to help me out a little bit here. The thing to remember is, as these sections are going to go on, I'm really trying to change the complexity and the intensity as it goes along. The other thing to bear in mind is the fill amount, because that'll add extra notes in. So I've started off quite low for extra notes and then slowly turned it up as we go along. Now, to make this sound good, what I'm going to do is convert these to a MIDI region from the convert menu, and I'm going to duplicate the original grandeur that we had and move those parts onto the same instrument. So now it will come back sounding like the original piano we were using. I think that sounds quite nice. I'm going to have to layer it up in this second section. We're going to bring in violins 1, I guess, here, and then we'll have our outro section. So nearly there, I think. Okay, there we have it. I've compressed the piano tracks down to 1. We've added some cymbals from BBC SO as transition elements, and I've put a little flourish at the end on the piano. It all comes together quite nicely. I'm going to play it for you now. Like and subscribe, always appreciated. See you in the next one. Bye for now.